Hello. No idea how this one is going to go because we're in the kitchen studio. And the reason we're in the kitchen studio is not just for change of scene, which is nice, but it's for the light because the light has been a bit poor on the last few videos. And to do this oil painting, um, I need light that's like okay for me, which it would have been in the other room, but okay for the camera as well. And the camera does not like oil paintings for some reason. It might be that I have to put the camera a bit further back from them sometimes. I don't know. But it just finds it very hard to focus on them. So apologies if I still have a focusing problem. I've really kind of done everything I can do to try and fix it, but this is kind of the best I can get for you. But sometimes with paintings, I'll do a video upload, and I can get good quality on those videos, so we don't suffer too badly with it. But obviously, it's a bit of a hindrance in the live. But we have a lot of fun, and get to do some painting. And I thought I'd bring in these from the garden because I'm thinking, right, we're more than halfway through summer, and there's lots of flowers out in the garden at the moment, but there won't be for long. So what I'm thinking is it'd be nice maybe next Friday to do a flower painting session. And I don't think I'll do it in oils because I think it'll be a drawing and painting session. I was talking recently about pattern and shape and pattern in plants and rhythm. And there's lovely rhythm in these, right? But it's tricky. There are a lot of different shapes and colors and everything to manage. So we might do something that kind of breaks down how you might approach drawing and painting something like that. So I might get the gouaches out of that one or watercolors. I don't know. I'm in a kind of an ink and watercolor mood recently, and you might have gotten by now to have seen the little upload I did where I was talking about this. That's really started actually, where I'm planning a kids book, and that's going very well. I'm enjoying it, but I'm using the watercolors like that and the inks, and I really enjoy the inks. But this is such a lovely subject that is not going to be around next Friday because they only last a few days and I have to throw them out. But I did get some very good photos, very good. I'm not flattering myself here. Very good to work from, I think, very good reference photos. And I think that we could next Friday work from those reference photos quite happily. And, normally I'd say, and look at what's in the video as well, but I don't know that the quality of this video is going to be great for it, to be honest with you, because any kind of low option, the quality is not great. But um, isn't my grey wall lovely? This is a new grey wall, and the whole kitchen isn't grey. You might be able to see on the right there. There's part of the wall that's a kind of a pale, creamy colour. It's Swiss coffee or something like that. It's called. And I didn't want the whole kitchen grey, but the reason I painted that part grey is because it's very nice as a background if you're painting, and it's really spectacular with all the flowers, I think. Um, so that would make very nice still life. I don't know that I'll come up to finish painting. It might be more a sketchbook session where I break up the thing and draw or work with color as well on different flowers, trying to really pin down their structure and their rhythm. So it'd be kind of an exploration of structure and rhythm and color. And this I actually have a video up on the channel where I'm painting this. You'll see it in the thumbnail. I think I was drawing it and I was just in pen and wash kind of approach on it. And that's the only time I've ever drawn them. I think I might have had one more go afterwards. They're not easy, those hydrangea. The hydrangea they are, yeah. I was getting rhododendron and hydrangea mixed up. They're hydrangea. They're not easy, but they have a beautiful structure. They're very, very interesting to draw for and oil paint. These are a lot easier, but they're interesting. So, enough waffling on about that. You know what I'm planning to do next week. So let me get the old, sorry, I put my head in the way here to lean in because I have my palette down here and I couldn't really get a satisfactory thing where I had the palette in view as well. I could put the palette up here on the shelf, but I don't think you'd see it all that well. So I'm going to compromise and just put up one of my reference drawings to work from there. And I have my computer set up on the right hand side of me with the photo to work for this drawing. I did a video as well. There's a video upload of me going to this place. So, anything I'm not sure if I can go through the video again and also capture the atmosphere of the place, which is nice. But for the moment, I'm just going to take my cling film, we'd call that in Europe. It's all brand names, isn't it? I don't know what you call it. Off the palette because it keeps the colours nice. And I haven't worked with that palette in a couple of days. And I am using what you call a restricted palette. And this palette it means that you're working with three primary colours, red, and I have an alizarin crimson going for this, yellow, and I have a primary yellow, what's called a primary yellow in oils. And then it's red, yellow, blue. So the blue I have going is, I think it's a phthalo blue I have going. Then to augment that restricted palette, I have black and white, which aren't really considered colours for the purposes of mixing, because they're there to make colours lighter or darker, or more tonal, or knock back the colour a little bit to make it less intense. I also have some earth colours going. Earth colours would be things like yellow ochre. I haven't done or sienna yet, but that could happen. And that's because although you can get them on a restricted palette, you can get them on by mixing other colours. You don't necessarily get them quickly or easily. I'm just going to actually put out some more alizarin crimson and phthalo blue while I'm talking to you. And if you work in acrylics or gouache or other media, some of the same colours will have different names in them, right? But phthalo blue would be a common name in different media, and alizarin crimson is a common name as well. But I have found sometimes in my forays into acrylics that the color names are completely different, and I go, I don't know what color that is, and then I recognize it when I choose it. So I have some white. So it is where's my these two, phthalo blue and alizarin. So again, apologies for the head. I knew my head would be sticking in the shot, and I actually threw on a bit of makeup, especially for you viewers, because there's only so much of my pale loveliness you can bear. That's the other thing about being on camera. You always look like you're about to die if you don't put makeup on. So hopefully you can hear the birds chirping away. They're very happy today. Got loads of food. And I have a chair that not need to hear the noises, but I don't know if I can sit on it at all. It's my thinking chair. Okay, let's see where I was. So where I left it the last day, I was actually pleased with the last session, because I got Um, Quite a lot of detail and colour in the mountains, and start to get some texture going in the hills in the mid distance and in a bit nearer in the foreground. And that sort of happened accidentally. And I'll show you the brush. uh, I'm always losing my brushes in a very small space, but I clean them and then I put them back in with the other ones. And there it is. This was a new blush I was trying out, and it's passed the test. I've decided I love it. It's an angled brush, and it's an acrylic, but it's fairly stiff, uh, white. These white hair brushes are often a lot stiffer than the fake sable ones. So I quite like that. That is a Rosemary and Co. 1/4 inch angled brush. And I don't use angled brushes normally, but after buying this experimental, I'm a huge fan now, because I'll show you the way I was using it. I was using it, you know, it's kind of, you're going to be using it on its side, really. You can do like wide marks that way, but where it really comes into its own is on its side that way. But you can paint in corners of buildings and things like that, for example, or you want to get oh, shush, birds. What are they for? I'm going to make a new thing for the birds. I can see them out the window, you see, from here. And I've decided I'm going to make a new thing for them, because the ants are getting all the little cozy ant house and all this. So the poor birds, they were out there the other day, and they were in the rain, and they were sitting by the bird feeders in the tree, and they just looked wet and miserable, and the rain was coming down on them in big splashes in their tree. Um, so there wasn't enough, shelter from the rain. And I thought, you poor things, why don't I make you? Because I'm not very good at making, but I did manage to put up that shelf. That went up okay, but the things I make don't always stay up. But I'm gonna make them a little roof that you hang from a branch, and I'm going to glue together a big load of twigs with wood glue, and drill a couple of holes in them, and hang the little roof thing from a tree, but there'll also be a couple of poles coming down from the roof, and a perch. They can all line up on the perch when it's raining. Wouldn't that be the cutest thing ever? So they are on my list for that, and that has to happen before the autumn, because I don't want the poor little birds suffering in heavy rains when it's coming into winter. And I know I won't do it in winter. And all my garden jobs get done in summer. So I am actually setting up to paint here. You'd never think it, but I'm getting my medium out, my thinning medium. And I'm also using refined linseed oil to make the paint a little bit slippier. Um, that medium there, it's to make the paint dry faster, but it adds a slight sheen to the paint, which I really like as well. And liquid is another medium, but I might not be using that today at all. I don't know. So I was quite happy with just linseed oil and quick drying medium. And actually, it's funny. The last I used the two together, but they actually do two opposite things, because a quick drying medium uh, helps speed your paint up, the drying process for your paint, and it speeds it up by a day or two actually. So that's nice, but it's more the kind of shine of the painting that I enjoy, because does what it actually does what linseed oil does, and makes the paint look glossier and rich. It can be overused a lot, and apparently you can get paint cracking a little bit if you overuse that particular medium. So a quick drying medium, you would have to be careful using it, but a little bit of in the paint. That's why I'm using a little bit of linseed oil as well. Although the linseed oil slows down the drying rate of paint, right? But and specifically we're talking about oil paint, of course. But using the two of them together means I'm not overusing the quick drying medium. But the effect is so nice. I'd like to tilt that painting more, but I can't with the camera. There is it, get more light on it. So I'll show you some of how I was using that brush in there, and I'm continuing to work in there. And I'm going to reach across it again because I want the picture I was working from. Oh, sorry about this, reaching across it all the time. Nothing's ideal, is it? And yeah, I want to get in at some of the and I can't really see it that great in photo actually, but it's all in here that I'm working on. And I was trying to get at the particular mix of colors there because there's a lovely, uh, very vibrant green, but then there's a kind of an ochre color happening behind it and a cooler sort of a green happening. And what I was doing, and I must go and get it actually. Excuse me. But yeah, here's what I was doing. I was saving at the end of each painting session. I was scraping up all my leftover paint, mixing it all together, and getting a kind of a neutral tone, which I'm going to reuse. And how you use that is you can put it in with, if you're mixing up your very vibrant green, for example, and you want another version of that green to happen, but because the sun is coming from over here and you've got a little bit of shadow on front of a little tussock of grass or something. Because of that, it's not as vibrant as a green in the shadow. So some of this in the green takes a little of the vibrancy out. You can do that with black as well, but I have been saying, send that out on palette. I love this because there's no waste either this way using this. But the thinking behind this, sorry, the thinking behind this is that there is harmony all over the picture because you are using this color, which might not look like that depending on what colors you had on your um, palette, but will look kind of a neutral grayed down kind of a color. Um, because you're using that color in with things, that color contains all the colors that you've been mixing on your limited or restricted palette, you say, red, blue, and yellow, and that contains a mix of all those. So if a little thing of that goes in with any purer kind of color, like if I have a mix of red, of green and blue, just for this with no red in it, a tiny touch of that in with the color is introducing a tiny little bit of the red spectrum in. And that seems to be why it makes the whole thing more harmonious. And hopefully, I could see it. I thought in the last session, what I could see it, that some of the colors, because I was working around the painting, some of the colors that were getting picked up from here and going into the mountains and everything, it was starting to bring the painting together a little bit better. I thought, just opinion, but I did think so. So I'm being a little bit restrained color wise, but I'm hoping the color is getting to where I want. I'm very happy with what's happening over here at the moment. This is getting a little bit more interesting here. Hills are getting better. I'd like it all to get better all at the same time. Life would be great if it was like that, wouldn't it? But you know, life's pretty good. We've got a bit of the summer left. We've got flowers to paint. So, no complaints, man, you know. And it is nice doing this project as well as doing the book because they're so different. And they're different, but they seem to complement each other. You know, I don't have to kind of rearrange my thinking completely when I'll just mix the color in front here because it's right for you. This is just my primary yellow and phthalo blue at the moment with none of that grey because I'm just wanting to go to the edge here and do something with the edge. But it's not like, you know, when you're painting and then you have to go off to work or something like that, in a factory, wherever you work. um, you know, it's a totally different headspace, you know. I mean, even if you're doing something, shuffling papers around at work or something, it's totally different headspace. The creative headspace is just very different headspace from various things in the world of earning earning a paycheck, unfortunately, unless you're looking to work on something creative. And even then, sometimes what is called creative isn't what you'd call creative, you know. They just call it creative to make it sound like it's not business. Now, see how useful this little brush is. Can you see how nice thin a line you can do with that just by pressing it? I love it. So this brush has the gun seal of approval. I would recommend. I, yeah, highly. I'll go as far as that and say highly. I can hear somebody mowing grass, so it's not actually raining. I mean, I can see it's not raining, but you can't. And you know, there were times yesterday when it wasn't raining either. I have actually done gardening both today and yesterday. Yesterday, I had one of those days where I didn't feel like doing art. I couldn't get it together. And I said, oh, don't worry about it. Just read. You know, everybody needs days off. You're not a machine, you know. So I said, I gave myself full permission to just be lazy, you know. So that was fine. And then I discovered midway through the afternoon, I went out I do this sometimes. I had been on a chocolate run to the shop. And as I arrived back, I realised that there were few bits of a rose bush in the front garden just sticking out over the wall. And I like to cut them back so that nobody cuts themselves going past on the rose bush. I'm going to put in some fir trees in there, and there's a little gap. This brush is great for doing fir trees as well, I discovered. It makes a nice. Oh no, I didn't do it with that. I did them with the rigger. There's a nice long kind of a petal shape to make the rigger. So it's worth having. It's worth knowing what kind of fancy brushes can do. So I will continue the rose story. Don't worry, but I want to keep you abreast of what's happening in the painting. There's more vibrancy coming in. I'm pushing and pulling all the time, trying to pull certain sections forward to create structure. And little tiny bits make such a difference. But I'm not kind of making up the structure. I'm looking at what's there. don't know that I'm convincing there. So the rose bush went out and I cut it, and then when I started cutting it, I said, "Oh, I'll just do a little bit here." Then I started trimming back branches on the tree. Then I got out the shears and started cutting the grass, a bit more of the grass, because I cut bits of it at a time. It's the fun way to cut grass, that just do a bit at a time. And for some reason, working with the shears, I think it's because I did it as a kid. That's the way I used to uh, do bits of cutting the grass as a kid, and it's it always made me happy working with the shears. So quite a little treat, and trying to get that it's great dated and this brush, you see, it even does that very nicely, and it's creating a nice little. I don't know how good you'd be able to get that. I'll try and bring it up to you and see if it'll focus. It does gradations in color very nicely, and I don't know that it's going to capture very well, but it's actually got little strokes that are um suggest grass very nicely. Little tiny little things like that make huge differences. You see, if I could hold a painting up this close, it'd be great, but you wouldn't see the whole painting. I'd have to keep moving. But you can see how it's coming along. That's if you're seeing what I'm seeing in the camera, which you aren't necessarily. I was holding stuff up the other day and I thought it was turning out okay on screen, and it wasn't. So let's see if it can manage to focus in again on that. Was it ever? Yeah, you see on my screen now that's perfectly focused. I don't know. It is dark though. It actually is dark in here because it's an overcast day with a very pinky out sky, and it's not great for flooding the place with light. It's just the time of year as well. When it starts coming into autumn and winter, it's going to be a challenge to keep painting. And in the studio, I think that I would probably be mostly doing stuff that I can have on the drawing board that will show up very well under studio lights, not this kind of stuff. It might be more limiting. So you see, stuff that I'm doing in the summer, photo references and things, I'm keeping for them because I think that probably that kind of stuff I can find ways of working with in winter that don't. Oh look, oh you're missing the garden. I don't want to swing the I don't want to swing the camera around because you don't need to see the kitchen sink. There's not that much stuff in it, but there's only the breakfast dishes. But you really don't need to see it. It's not the prettiest layout in the world. But the doves are pretty. Wild doves they are, and I don't think they fit on a little perch if I made it. But so yeah, yesterday I was doing a lot of garden stuff, cutting back bushes in the back garden, and cutting a lot of grass in both the front and back garden. So it ended up quite a productive day, but none of it was art stuff. But you see, the other stuff of life has to be kept up as well. Stuff like doing your dishes. This path is terrible. I don't know why. I think it's got a little. It does have a little edge to it, right? I think this is a color thing. I'm going to get some ochre involved here. Sorry, trying to keep my head the way again. Ochre and yeah, here's the reason I haven't been using burnt sienna, because actually the edge of the path involves a kind of a brownish color, and I haven't got any brown out here. I have been so far quite happily just using my alizarin. And when you use the alizarin in with your either your green that you mixed, or even a little bit of your neutral color from the last time, you can get this nice, um, very brown that's kind of not very, very brown, neutral. And that is the color of the edge. So you can see there are little things happening, but it was a bit more slapdash the last time in terms of the way I was putting things on. But I'm increasingly, as I go along, I find I have to think a bit more. This area here, I'm going to change brushes. Because there's a kind of a flatter feel to it with just a few little tussocky sort of bits going on. So I want to keep the character of the thing, okay? So I'm back to my filbert, my beloved filbert, and I'm gonna get a bit of that color I just mixed, which had the alizarin crimson in it, and you would never guess by looking at the color that alizarin crimson was in it. But I'm bringing it back up to a greener color. And you could have another little kind of extra canvas or something beside you where you test the colors if you want, but I'm being more casual about it than that. So I'm trying to get the edge on that road without it being too um, illustration. And I do draw a distinction between the two things. I'll definitely have a lot of illustration qualities sneaking into my work, and I would be entirely thrilled with that completely. Here, there is a moment when being slapdash is good because you see the way I put that mark on fairly casually there, and I drag the brush outside. It describes the thing better than had I carefully painted that in. So, but it's knowing where to put that very decisive brush mark that can make the difference between pretty good painting and a not so good painting. But none of it, I'm not doing any of it for effect, right? And one of the differences, I think, that's the wrong color there. I need to sneak a bit more of that color with the alizarin in. One of the differences, I think, between illustration and fine art is that I would be calling this an illustration of something or for some purpose, like a book or something. If I had created it with the idea in mind that um, I'm going to make it look slightly designed. There's something about illustration, it just looks more designed with a purpose in mind. I don't know, maybe, you might disagree with me completely on that point and say, well, no, I don't see the difference. I don't know why it's going to be thing about illustration, difference between illustration and not illustration, and those differences don't exist. But they used to, and I think they still do, although a lot of people up until the 20th century, I think, might have only experienced fine art through illustrations of fine art because engravings and things like that popularized by people like William Turner, who was used to do engravings, um, and Blake, people like that. These people all did illustrations and illustrate what was really, really popular. The last book I was reading about art, I think it was called The Moderns, or The Modernists, it was called, was about, largely about that, and how book libraries, popularized book libraries, really brought art to people who would normally not look at it or have an opportunity to look at it before pre-railways, you see. Um, Railways really allowed people to go to art, but before then you had to be really super rich and undergo quite long journeys to get to art, to get access to seeing it. So, but when you had books suddenly becoming cheap and accessible, people wanted illustrations in them. And one of the things they were very interested in was travel and going to art galleries. So books telling you all about art, and engravings of art. So black and white illustrations of color fine art pieces, where the person might never get to see the actual work of art, but they'd get to see the illustration. They became very popular. And sorry, you have to find out what's going on back here. And guidebooks to galleries. People like Ruskin, who was, you might have heard of him actually, because if you're into any of the Romantic era painters, people like Rossetti, like that. Ruskin was kind of the art critic and introducer of them to popular tastes, and it was a great champion of them. And he and there were a couple of other people who wrote a very popular guidebook to art galleries. And rich people used to go off on their European tour. And you will see things like that in Merchant Ivory films like Room with the View, or on that topic. Or even something like Death in Venice is actually kind of on that topic, the European tour. Orlando Figgis or something like that, the name of the guy that wrote the book was. It was very interesting book. I enjoyed it. So I like what's happening with the painting now, and you might be saying, "Oh yes, but it's happening very slowly." Yeah, it is. Well, I'm chatting as well. See, so you cut me a break, folks. Cut me a break. And zooming in and out, you see on the photo. But this is a lot more helpful to me than the photo was. It's more specific about what I saw on the day. Oh, birdies, what a fight that now. Things get a bit frantic and more vicious as the day wears on because the bird seed wears out. But they're terrific to watch. They definitely deserve a little roof over their heads for bad weather. I think even I could manage. And the darn tree that they're in. Every time I have one job in the garden done, another one presents itself. This is going to be a tricky section here. The tree that they're in, that needs a kind of severe trimming back. Just coming into the autumn, it'll need that as well. That's a big job. Then I'm thinking we'll have another bonfire, will we? I'll get out. I have another bigger fire pit in the garden. I try that for our sort of autumn solstice, let's call it. Get rid of some of the garden waste that's building up again. But a lot of the garden waste, you have to wait until it starts drying out a bit. So I tend to have a huge pile of things that I call my security system because I like leaving my bedroom window open for a lot of the year. But I've got huge piles and piles of garden waste just outside the window all sorts of branches and cuttings of rose trees, which I keep in that only in that pile because rose trees will root very easily. If you just casually throw them in with your compost, you'll end up with loads of other rose trees. And I don't necessarily want those rose trees all over the garden. They're wild roses, so they'll take very easily. Oh, that's quite dark there. I don't know if I want it that dark. This is also too dark. And they're only tiny little differences, but they make a huge difference. I need some white, but of course the white takes some of the color out of it as well, so still too dark. And you see, when you're mixing up something, there's a lot of color left over because, something like you're saying, oh, that's, too dark or something, you might not use any of that color. So scraping all that up with a palette knife afterwards and mixing it all together and then getting your gray. Look, I've used quite a lot of that neutral gray already. Such a good trick. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Let me get this. Yeah, the camera is kind of hopefully not looking into my ear, but right beside my ear because to get it in close enough to canvas to actually that you're actually able to see the canvas is it means I have to shove it in right close to my head. So I paint at a very bad angle here. I also sometimes get a bit of back pain after doing these sessions, but I'm not quite that. But it's, you see, you do need to be able to see the painting process. Just listen to me. But I think you can probably see it is developing because it's, you're drawn into this warmer, that is a warmer area in there. And there are little tricks like, if you find something red, you can put it. There was a barn in there somewhere. Say I had a red barn or a roof of a barn or something there somewhere. The eye will instantly go and zoom in. But look, even in the background, your eye is probably drawn to those flowers all the time. So that bit of warmth there, I'll show you what I mean, a bit more red in. It's not a very particularly hot red, but I could actually get it. Okay. So yeah, we're getting away with that. It does pull it in a little bit. So and we do want the eye to. So I'm lying with it there, but we want the eye to travel down that road. So and this is helping with that in a way, and I'm going to do a little bit of work on it. It's helping with it in a way because it is kind of an anchor point. So I'm going to do a little bit more work on that. Now try not to use too much white spirits because I want to stay conscious, basically. I have had a lot of headaches recently, and it does it can aggravate you if you're a bit headachy. It can aggravate you worse. The white spirits or terps. So I want a bit of this. I wanted a warmer green. So I have the yellow, blue, but I'm going to put a little bit of ochre in as well, see, to get a more sap green, but I'm also going to go darker. So some red is going in, surprisingly, right? And watch what happens. Nice, isn't it? Now it's still, it's browny and muckier. So if it's not satisfactory enough, and it isn't, I'm going to take out an extra color because I was using a restricted palette, but you can do extra things. Sorry, you can introduce extra colors when you're using a restricted palette for specific reasons, and this is the perfect time to do that. I want to get the color a bit punchier. So a viridian green is a very, look at how intense that color is. Very intense color. So we want more intensity in that color. But I also want uh, more intensity in the warmth as well. And the yellow I had been using was cadmium yellow, which was a primary yellow. Now, if I can find it, I'm gonna, if I have it, I don't. I was gonna add chrome yellow, but I don't have any. I bought chrome yellow recently, and it turned out to be. I don't think this is gonna do what I want actually. Because this is a lemon yellow. Um, I'm trying to bring it more towards a kind of a sap green, a very intense sap green, without just adding sap green. But I might end up adding sap green because the yellow that I bought that I wanted to use in this was turned out to be a water-based oil paint, which sounds mad, but um, I wasn't even looking out for that mistake because who thinks about oil, water-based oils? It's just very weird. So I do not. I don't think I'm going to get it this way, but I'll see. Well, it's not bad actually. So I've added a little bit of iridium to that. And it's still unified because there's still, touches of all the colors in it, but it's less harmonious than it could be if I only used a palette, right? Because I am introducing something new into this now. But if I don't overuse it, I might get away with it. Okay, so there's a lot of, on this side, there are a lot of ferns and things going on. I haven't really represented them as ferns because I find ferns incredibly difficult. They'd be for me, they would be a subject in their own right that I would have to sit there and study. And my landscape painting, it takes years to improve it. I find, that I suddenly have a breakthrough, one kind of plant that I'm doing, that I go, oh yeah, yeah, that plant is, I don't have as much trouble with it as I used to. But it can take such a long time, and I'm not there yet with ferns. So I'm sort of very generalizing about things, and these leaves are nothing to do with ferns really at the moment. They're just scrubby leaves. Okay, so I do want that very pale grey blue showing up on tips of leaves and things as well. But I want to have the leaves established properly first. And I think I have more work possibly to do in here before because this is not living, if you like, in a very interesting way at the moment. So, but I do want to get things, the depth of things established a bit better. So I could come in with, remember I said we were using black? I am bringing a black in there. But if you look, kind of dead black. So a little bit of that viridian going in. But there are going to be spots that I want a green, bits of a very mossy, warm green. So we're kind of heating up the painting. Maybe some people don't think of green being a warm color, but there are warm greens and cool greens like anything else. So we're sort of heating up the painting a little bit as we go along because I had decided after the last session that apart from this area here, that it was all a little bit too cool all over. And I knew that these areas here, I didn't want them that very grayish green all over. But I wanted to control when I moved into warmer greens. I want to be able to control those greens. So this is why I'm going at it a little bit sort of carefully, about where I'm putting them in and all. And moving around a bit again, you see, because I've been in here, haven't I, and coming out again, and I'm going back in because I'm going to re-establish some of that um, lighter green color. And I'm trying to avoid again using white spirits and just rubbing the paint off instead. Because you're rubbing the fumes around every time you're doing that, and I have a kitchen window open, but it's a small room, and will end up getting lightheaded if I'm not. And I must say I'm enjoying it is a new thing, trying to be more aware of the solvents that I'm using because it's a joy sitting around at night and not having an overwhelming smell of white spirits all the time. I've almost forgotten what I was going to do. Yeah, I remember what I was going to do. So if you're finding this is at the dull part of painting, okay? I will admit it. You would actually learn something about color mixing and everything if you were laboriously listening to me, but I don't know that it's not a bit of a labor to listen to. I'm just thinking out loud at this stage. But bear in mind, next Friday's live stream is a different kind of live stream. It's a different subject. It's working on those flowers with references. And it's not this very slow kind of oil painting. It is drawing skills, really. Drawing skills and some color notes and things like that. And I think it's lively and fun, a topic. So, you know, I'm happy enough to do live streams like this and very happy that people did actually watch them. So there is some interest in watching somebody doing some oil painting, even if I'm being a bit dull about it, which I am. I don't mind admitting it. So that's nice that there's some interest in it. But I'm not just going to keep going on in that vein all the time because I think, you know, with the best intentions, you'd lose interest because it's a very slow pace. But it is very good I think it is very good to show people the slow moments in painting. There's a lot of these, a lot, you know. And then there's some kind of quick things that are very exciting to do and can be achieved. Try to keep some of the brown, some of the unevenness of that area turn up again. This is still. See, I could get stuck with trying to do this little track for ages. I don't want to get stuck in there either. But it's central to the whole picture, so that's why I'm spending so long with it. I'm making use of the neutral colour left over from last time in with that brown to try and re-establish this bit here. Because the thing with the track is it does have, little tufts and things along the side of it, where the grass is, there's a lip of grass a little bit lighter than it. But I don't want it to look sort of cut out. So subtleties like that can take ages in a picture. And sometimes it's just getting the stroke in the right way. So you kind of, then you wipe something out and then you paint it back in really fast, hoping you'll get the stroke right this time. And it doesn't always work. Not working this time. Definitely not working. Okay. I'm trying to work with some of the raised quality of it. To sort of sculpt it a little bit, but this is where some the slows. See, I'm happier with that. And if I show you that, just only 3 minutes before we'll have to go. But if we can get it to focus on that, can you focus? You see that? Using it like a little sculptural thing. If I can get another little flick around the corner, it might help. Because I want a little raised bit there as well. So we try. There, you see, that's helping. I think that's helping a bit. I mean, I could come back, on the next section and say, no, that's too raised. I don't like that. I like it at the moment. I'm not going to do it all the way on. A few raised touches. Because some of your natural light then does some of the work and creates the shadow along the edge for you. You do not have to do it with an actual line in the paint. And on another painting, which I'm going to glaze, the glaze can actually do that for you. I'll show you something before the glow to explain that. The wall because I framed it recently, but you see this one. This one was glazed, right? And I did things with it that I wanted the paint to sit in along the edge of heavy brush strokes, impasto brush strokes that I'd made, and add more structure and detail to the painting. So that's using that liquid stuff that I had there, painting medium, with a little bit of paint in with it, really watered down, and painting it with the soft blush on top. Brings out all that structure and brings out the edges to each brush stroke and gives a very particular look. But it's wonderful in terms of adding texture and depth to a painting. So I liked that painting because it was very weird. It went very weird directions, and not all of it is highly successful or anything. But I'm very fond of that painting. So something like that, you could let that dry for weeks, right? Weeks or even a couple of months for paint to dry, oil paint to dry out properly. Then come back and glaze with a dark color on top of that. And all, say it was a black I glazed with, all the black will collect along the edge of that impasto bit. And that is a very beautiful effect that the old masters made a lot of use of. Very very effective technique. But of course, you have to be prepared to come back to a painting months and months later, which, you know, um, we do paint differently these days and we do have different priorities and things, so not everybody is going to be able to do that. But I like doing it, but I have to be able to reconnect with painting. And I'm going to, if you want to see me doing that, we'll do that in a couple of weeks on the spring painting that I did. If you remember, we've just gone now. But next week, I'm not talking about next week, because next week we're doing floral stuff with that arrangement, with the references, reference photos that I took. But we will come back to the painting I did of the tree down by the river. Well, a group of trees really down by the river in the spring, which I wanted to apply layers of glaze to because it's very impasto painting. So we'll come back to that in a few weeks. So that'll be a demo of using glazing techniques, which will be interesting. So today you might not have seen me do very much painting, but it is coming along. You can see that there are some I've had some looking time as well, and there are areas in the painting which are important areas which are starting to come out now. This line and this line um, bring you into the painting and your eye going around that nice little hill there, which I like because there are little paths and warm areas of color in here, and there are cows going in here, and then there's interest over here because there are like white pickety things over here. So I'm thinking at this stage of the painting, I'm maybe half or three quarters of the way through, and that those little areas of interest, visual interest areas, are going in soon. So maybe in the next session, actually. So the painting will start, it'll be make or break stuff. So the painting will start, hopefully, really coming together quickly in the next session or so. But I am not going to paint that on the live stream. I might have this painting finished by next Friday. Hopefully, if I have it finished, I'll show it to you next Friday before we go into our session on the flowers. But I think you'll enjoy the one with flowers, actually. And I hope that you enjoyed something about the bit of mixing that we did today, talking about using that limited palette and talking about introducing a few extra colors and why I introduced a couple of extra colors like the earth tones or that viridian color, and why I was hunting around searching for chrome yellow, which I didn't have. I remember trying to get chrome yellow for ages, and I'm so pleased I got it. Then to find out that it was water based was very annoying. And why is there this worldwide shortage of chrome yellow? Madness. So yeah, so hopefully you got something out of that. And thank you very much for watching the other lives on it, because they were also very slow painting lives, and you know, there was a lot of chatting, but I'm not necessarily absolutely riveted when I'm chatting, because I'm chatting and painting at the same time. And so goodness knows what you get there. But that's what we're doing next Friday, folks. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you so much for dropping by. And thanks for anybody that turned up and chat. Bye.